we are continuing to reduce our securities holdings at a brisk pace. We've covered a lot of ground, and the full effects of our tightening have yet to be felt.
Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Now, the data is in, and right now is the absolute worst time to buy a house in history. And we're going to go into an article where we're going to see that the industry professionals right now are begging, you guys, absolutely begging the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates because they have profound concerns about the housing market, leading us into a hard landing. Now, the associations are the National Association of Realtors has profound concerns. What an absolute shame that instead of giving the consumers, instead of being honest with the consumers about their profound concerns, they just tell us to keep buying so long as you can afford it. Also, the National Association of Builders and the Mortgage Bankers Association have all written into the Federal Reserve to talk about the massive need, in their opinions anyways, to cut interest rates. And the reality is the housing market right now is much worse than 2008 in many, many ways. Not in every way, but in many, many ways, especially when it comes to unaffordability. And what's happening right now is the market is trying to prop up the values, and by the way, overvalues of house prices on the backs of consumers that cannot afford to sustain home ownership in the face of quantitative tightening and a recession. The industry professionals have gotten everything terribly wrong. And always remember, I'm not a financial advisor. You should be your own financial advisor by entrusting yourself with credit, income, and assets, and understanding how data works. Instead of saying real estate is about hyper local, just say real estate is about subdivision for the sake of argument. So real estate is about subdivision. Nevertheless, guys, if you can, for all of the effort I put in making my videos, please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Shoot me a comment below and hit notifications, because what's up with YouTube with notifications? Either way, I hope you enjoy this video. Now, one primary reason why these industry associations are writing into the Fed to cut interest rates is because the US housing market has gotten so expensive that income would have to jump 55% to make buying affordable again. And really think about that for a second. The Federal Reserve is trying to create unemployment. They're trying to tamper down wages. Does anyone really think that on average we're going to make 55% more income? And to really put this in perspective, if you guys come here, this will be linked in my article. This is Zillow, and this is income needed to afford the typical US home at different mortgage rates. And really what I want to point out is when we take a look at the national average of the United States with a 10% down payment, at today's average interest rate, the annual household income needs to be $107,000. Again, with a 10% down payment, the average consumer needs to make $107,000. And when I say the situation is worse than 2008, I mean it. And I'm talking about unaffordability. Things are more unaffordable right now than they have been in decades. When we look at the national payment to income ratio, it says 38.3%, but that's a lie, you guys. That's based on gross income. We don't bring that's based on gross income. What needs to happen is net income. Net income is when medical insurance is paid, 401ks, taxes, and things of that nature. This information is based on gross income. And if you look down here, it's also based on a 20% down payment and not including taxes, insurance, or HOA. So when we add the realistic things here like the HOA, property taxes, and insurance, and if we were to use net income right now, I would think that over 50% of net income right now is going towards paying people's mortgages. Now, we're about to jump into this article, but I want you to think about this. Realtors have been telling us to buy this entire time. As consumers, they say, marry the house, date the rate, home values are only going to go up. We don't know that they're going to go down. We don't know if interest rates are going to go down, even though the Fed has said interest rates will go down. The industry is failing us. Instead of telling the consumers we have dire concerns, they go behind our backs and they pencil and write in Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve. That should be absolutely shocking to you. Let's dig in. This is a CNBC article. You can see that this came out today, the day of this video. Housing industry urges Powell to stop raising interest rates or risk economic hard landing. And again, let's look at some of these associations that has recently written into the Federal Reserve. Number one, the National Association of Home Builders. Again, shame they're not telling us as consumers. What are they doing right now? Offering ridiculous buying incentives so that we march into their sale centers and keep buying overpriced houses. Number two, the Mortgage Bankers Association. Number three should concern us all. Look at this, guys. The National Association of Realtors. They all wrote the Fed to convey profound concern about the industry. Can you name one article that NAR has released to consumers that says they have profound concerns about the industry and it creating a hard landing? No, we can't. At least I can't, because that's not what they do. They go behind our backs to these officials to talk about what their real profound concerns are, which is not about the consumer. Their profound concerns, just so you know, is about themselves. Don't forget that. The group asked the Fed not to complete further rate hikes and not to actively sell its holdings of mortgage securities. That is a huge one. And I suspect we're going to see them sell a lot more mortgage-backed securities just as soon as the reverse repo market runs out of money for the Fed to borrow. This article goes on. Top real estate and banking officials are calling on the Federal Reserve to stop raising interest rates as the industry suffers through surging housing costs and a historic shortage of available homes for sale. Again, except for new construction, which has an abundance of homes for sale. They leave that out. That's okay. In a letter yesterday addressed to the Fed Board of Governors and Chair Jerome Powell, the officials voiced their worries about the direction of monetary policy and the impact it is having on the real estate market. The National Association of Home Builders, the Mortgage Bankers Association, and the National Association of Realtors said they wrote the letter to convey profound concern shared among collective memberships that ongoing market uncertainty about the Fed's rate path is contributing to a recent interest rate hikes and volatility. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, if they're saying uncertainty, that's because their heads are in the sand, because the Federal Reserve has been telling us this entire time what they're going to do. In fact, they said it was going to be worse. They haven't even done what they said. They've done less than what they said. And still the market's like, oh, so much uncertainty. We'll pay attention to what the Federal Reserve is saying and maybe prevent less people from purchasing foolishly based on emotion and based on assumptions that are not true. One of them being that home values only go up. This goes on. We urge the Fed to take these simple steps to ensure that this sector does not precipitate the hard landing the Fed has tried so hard to avoid. But that's what they're telling us, right? They're telling us they want to avoid it, but that's also part of their job. Their job is to lie to us. So basically, we don't know that we're being boiled alive. If you don't know that, look at Ben Bernanke and what happened during the great financial crisis. The letter comes as the Fed is weighing how it should proceed with monetary policy after raising its key borrowing rate 11 times since March of 2022. Now, if they would just stop printing money, am I right? That was a 2023 bank bailout reference. In recent days, several officials have noted that the central bank could be in a position to hold off on further increases as it assesses the impact that previous ones have had on various parts of the economy. However, there appears to be a little appetite for easing, with the benchmark Fed funds rate now pegged in a range between 5.25 and 5.5, its highest in some 22 years. So when that yield curve inversion happens, that messes things up for a lot of companies, especially banks, because they cannot make the same amount of profit. At the same time, the housing market is suffering through constrained inventory levels, prices that have jumped nearly 30% since the early days of the COVID pandemic, and sales volumes that are off more than 15% from a year ago. But we need prices to come down. Everyone knows that. Prices need to come down. The letter notes that rate hikes have exacerbated housing affordability and created additional disruptions for a real estate market that is already straining to adjust to a dramatic pullback in both mortgage origination and home sales volumes. This is not the same attitude that they have with consumers. Very despicable, in my opinion, because this is the truth about what they really feel is happening in the housing market. So I hope you pay attention to this. These market challenges occur amidst a historical shortage of attainable housing. At recent meetings, Powell has acknowledged dislocations in the housing market. During his July news conference, the chair noted this will take some time to work through. Be patient. Hopefully, more supply comes online. The spread and magnitude of these rate increases and resulting dislocation in our industry is painful and unprecedented in the absence of large economic turmoil. But the turmoil is the fact that almost no normal American can afford a house right now. So I would say we have massive turmoil right now for consumers. The group also points out that the spread between the 30-year mortgage rate and the 10-year treasuries are at historically high levels, while shelter costs are a principal driver for increases in the consumer price index inflation gauge. This is important to understand. As part of an effort to reduce its bond holdings, the Fed has reduced its mortgage holdings by nearly $230 billion since June of 2022. That sounds like a lot, but they promised us a lot more. But the market couldn't handle it. So the people that are saying, oh, the Fed has no control over mortgage interest rates, you guys, they're purchasing the mortgage-backed securities. They have absolute control. However, it has done so through passively allowing maturing bonds to roll off of its balance sheet rather than reinvesting. So they're not selling, they're allowing it to mature and they're not repurchasing. So better than nothing. There has been some concern that the Fed might get more aggressive and start actively selling its mortgage-backed securities. I expect to see more mortgage-backed securities sold again when there's a lot less money in the reverse repo market, because right now the government is getting money from the reverse repo market. The reverse repo market goes into 6-month treasuries or 1-month treasuries. They purchase that. The government takes the money and then they burn it. And that's kind of how quantitative tightening works. At this point, pretty much everyone has to acknowledge the writing on the wall. I know some people don't want to be patient. Some people want to hold on to that everything's okay. Home values are only going to go up. But we have the data now. We have historical precedent that is saying right now there's going to be some type of economic event. And more than likely, because of the lack of fundamentals, because of the lack of sustainability when it comes to the prices of homes, because of those things, I believe that the prices can go down at a faster, deeper rate than 2008. Now, other than that, guys, I really hope you got some new values, insight, and perspective. And if you're out there investing in real estate, I wish you luck and I hope you win.